live on the internet?
This is, okay, just an FYI, this is a live streamed event, so the whole world, actually not the whole world today, but we're testing it out as a resource primarily, so that if you have some nuggets of wisdom from this, which you will, most likely, you can refer to the video to kind of go through the instructions and review what Kyle, with his experience, has shared with you guys. So we're trying it out. And if this works out really well, we might live stream other events so that you can just watch this stuff from your office. If that's more convenient. But being here in person, I think, it's different. I think you're going to get more from it.
Could you give him a handout?
But anyways, that's it. And we are live right now. So anyways, Kyle, go for it.
We are live. Welcome to my workshop. I've been instructed to give you guys my CV before I start, so I will do that. So my name is Kyle Butler, and I am a lecturer and the Bridge Level Coordinator here in OPI. I've been with OPI, I think, for about 3 or 4 years now. Before that, I worked at a variety of IEPs around the state. And let's see, I have to tell you guys why I'm good at technology. I do a lot of technology stuff, and I've done a lot of kind of technology-based presentations for TESOL International, also here in OB, just like a series of brown bags and things like that. I also served this summer as the technology coordinator for the Fulbright pre-academic program that comes here. So I know what I'm talking about. And if I don't, then Abe's here, so he'll help me. Today, what I want to do is, the first half, it'll be a little lecture-y, but I just want to kind of give you guys an overview of Box. I don't want to make too many assumptions about what you do and don't know about it. So please, during my intro and spiel, if at any point you kind of need to ask a question, don't hesitate to interrupt. That's fine with me. But I want to give you kind of an overview of what Box is. I want to show you an example of how I use it, how I used it last semester as a course management system. And then in the second half, I'm going to get you guys out onto the computer. I've got a shared folder that Donna is currently adding all of you guys to. And I've got a couple of tasks that you guys can work on so you can get the experience of what it's like to be the student in my class and see what kind of collaborative activities we end up doing on Box. Let's see, to give you, so this is Box that I have up on my screen. And the basic overview is that it's a system for online file storage, sharing, and collaboration. If you use Google Drive or anything else like that, it's very similar in many ways to Google Drive. You can access your files online, like I have here in the web browser, or if you use the Box Sync program, you can access everything on your computer. If you can see, my folder there is called Box Sync. This is also similar to Google Drive. So I basically have a folder on my computer. Any work that I do in here, anything that I edit, I don't have to be online when I do it. But as soon as my computer is online again, you will see it. Actually, if you see up here, this is the Box Sync. Right now it's scanning my folders, and any changes that it finds, it will update automatically. It works, one of my favorite features about it, and this is that it works with Microsoft Office Online. So you can, with new Microsoft Office 365, they have a web browser version of their programs like Word and PowerPoint and Excel. And so you can actually, using Box, you can be creating and editing Word documents online. Or, of course, you can do it on your computer. And if you're using Box Sync, well, actually, I'll show you guys a few of those things in a minute. And finally, one of the biggest advantages for us for Box particularly is it is available to all of you guys, all OU faculty and students with your Ohio ID. Everybody has 40 gigabytes of free storage, although yesterday I noticed that I actually have 50 now, so I don't know if I'm a premium user or if like everybody just suddenly got upgraded to 50 gigabytes. But to give you an idea, I think I use this for everything, like all of my teaching materials that I have, and even some other things. My wife and I create shopping lists, and we use Box. And then when we're at the store, we just like get out our phones, and like if we have to add something to each other, so everything I have is on Box, and I think it's like 25 gigabytes. And so I'm, using about half of it. So you'll probably never fill it up, unless you're in the film department, and then you will fill it up. I want to show you an example of how I've used this as a CMS. I used it last semester with my high intermediate listening and speaking class. And let's see. So I'm going to take you there. And I'll show you that I've got a larger folder for everything that, all of my documents, all of my files related to this course. But within that, I've got this little folder here, which is a shared folder. You can tell the difference because it's blue and it has people on it, which means you've shared it with people. And this is where I put everything that I want my students to have access to. So you'll notice down here, I've got like a folder for my quizzes. I've got, the audio from the textbook saved. So these things, obviously, I don't want the students getting a hold of, so I don't put them in a shared folder. But everything else that I do want my students to see is in this shared folder. And so I'm going to cover how you can use it for storage, sharing, collaboration, and then I'll talk a little bit too about how you can use it for student submission, for them to turn in assignments. So the first and most obvious thing is storage. It works like any other folder. And so when I actually create this shared folder, there are certain things that I store, like the syllabus for the class. I just go ahead and store it here rather than storing it in my other folder. And that way the students have it, just like you would on Blackboard or anything else. I've got all the course materials for anything I come up with and need to put in there. I just go ahead, and if it's something I did with the students, I store it in this folder and not another folder, and that way the students always have access to it. So storage is pretty straightforward. But the ways I use it for sharing, first of all, you'll want to create a folder. And I just, for anyone who hasn't used Box before, let me ask you guys, if you're in here and you want to create a new folder or anything new, what do you think you would click on this screen?
New.
Yeah, you can see up here at the top there's a little thing that says new. So I clicked on new. And if I want to create a new folder, what should I click on now?
Folder. Maybe folder.
Folder. All right. Very good. So, to me, this is one of the advantages of Box. It's very simple, it's very clean, and most of it is pretty intuitive. And I think, I was asked about some of advantages, disadvantages, Box versus Blackboard versus Moodle kind of a thing. I've used Moodle, I've used Blackboard a lot in the past, and they have lots of really cool functionalities, and there's actually way more that you can do on that than you can do on Box. But the biggest disadvantage for me is there's a huge learning curve. And you have to learn what the terminology is for Blackboard, what the terminology is for Moodle, where these things are hidden within all these various submenus. Box, it only has a few things it does, and it lays them out pretty clearly. So when you create a folder, you can invite students, and when you invite your students, well, as you can see over here on the side, it has a list of collaborators for this folder. So you can see me at the top, I'm the owner. And then you can see all of my students. And you'll notice that I have the title of owner, they have the title of viewer uploader. So if I want to invite more people to collaborate in my folder, what do you think I'm going to click? Yeah, invite people. This big button right here. Just like if you're using Outlook, just like that, if you just type in someone's name, for example, Mr. Abraham Rashad, you can see that his name pops up, and this is, it makes it really quick and easy to add your students. You just start typing in their names and they'll pop up. Sorry, Abe, I'm not going to add you to this folder.
That's okay.
And so one of the things you'll notice is you have to give them permissions. You have to decide their level of access to the folder. And there are, I think, 6 or 7 different titles that they can have. What do all these things mean? What do I click if I want to learn more, if I want to know more about these permissions? Learn more. Let me know if this gets annoying. And so you can see very clearly there's a variety of things, and it lays out exactly what powers they have to upload, to download, to delete. And so if you look, I really like to have my students interact with stuff and collaborate. So one of the powers that I want them to have is edit. I want them to be able to edit things. So my choices are basically to make them co-owner, editor, or viewer, uploader. I don't want them to own the folder. It's just obvious why you don't want a student to own your folder. Editor, preview, uploader are exactly the same, except that an editor can delete files from the folder, and a viewer, uploader can't. So my general practice has been to make my students viewer, uploaders. Then they can come in, they can edit things. But as I'll show you later, if they edit something and blow up one of your documents, you can very easily restore it to its older version. But you don't want them to actually be able to delete files from it. But one of the things that gets annoying about this, anyone who's used Box in this way will know that students will accidentally upload things to your folder, and then they're like, I couldn't delete it, and you have to delete it. And that's just one of the things you have to deal with when your students are viewer uploaders. But that's my recommendation.
So could they edit your syllabus then?
They could. You will notice one thing, that my syllabus on here is a PDF file.
Yeah.
So they cannot edit my syllabus. But one thing I had happening, actually, my homework is a Word document. And this is, so this is one of the things, every day I go in and I just add the homework onto this document. You can see their homework at the end of the semester. And so, you know, since every day I add it, they can basically go back and they can see what their homework was any day on one simple document. Originally, so I have this as a Word doc now, so the students could edit it, but there are kind of like steps. They have to like open it, and you know, they're not going to like accidentally just click something and delete it. Before, I was actually using a box note, which I'll show you guys in just a minute. It's a different kind of file on here that's very quick and easy to open and edit. And I had one student who just kept going in and deleting the homework every night. And so, but I'll show you guys in a minute, but there's a real quick way that I was able to just restore it. But I did change it and eventually decide I'm going to make it a Word document so that at least this guy's got to open it up in a separate like platform before he can delete everything I've put in there. But yes, I mean, you know, these are kind of things you have to think about and keep on top of. Let's see. And once you invite somebody, you guys will all experience this in a few minutes if you haven't before. But once I've invited someone and added them as a collaborator, when they sign in, when they go to ohio.box.com and open up their account, they will see that folder right there. And so they can access it anytime that way. They don't need an extra link or anything like that. So some of the things that I share, I just showed you guys the homework, the daily homework. Also, my kind of working weekly plan for the class. You know, this is kind of my broad strokes. I don't share my daily detailed lesson plans, but you know, this kind of thing, I keep it on there. You know, I have my my assessments in like red and things like that. And I have this working document on there so the students can, anytime they know what I know about what's going to happen in class in the future. And so this for me has been really helpful, just to be like, you know, if a student misses a class, or if a student is just like asking you, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? I can just, you know, constantly remind them to go on and check this, and you know what I know about what's going to happen in the future of this class. So some things like that are really nice, just for very simple sharing. And the last thing I wanted to show you guys, this is, if anybody uses Google Drive, one of the biggest advantage, one of my biggest beefs with Google Drive is that in your list of files and folders, you can't just add a link. It would be so nice and so easy if I could just add a link to that list. And that's one of the things you can do on Moodle and Blackboard. It's very easy to include links. So in Box, you can include links. They're called bookmarks. And so we talked about anything new you want to add, you click the New button, and you see right here the link icon. One of the few bits of terminology you got to learn is that in Box, a link is called a bookmark. But you can do that, and once you've done that, let's OP Activities folder. So conversation partners sign up. You know, we got to get the students to do that. We have to give them a link so that they can sign up. And so I just post it on here as a bookmark, and then the students have it, and they can very quickly and easily access it. So that's one of the things that's really nice about this. Next, I want to talk a little bit about collaboration. So there are a variety of ways that I use Box as a platform for collaboration among my students. And there are different types of files that you can easily incorporate. And the first one I mentioned before is a box note. So again, our New button. One of the things you can create here is a box note. I'm going to show you an example of one that I have created before. The wonderful thing about box notes is actually, no matter how you set the sharing settings, anybody who can get into the folder can edit a box note. So even if you haven't given them the power to edit other things, they can go in and they can type anything they want in a box note. And it's very quick and easy to open them up. Let's see, where's the one I was looking for? Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. So I was having my students, we we were doing a unit on ethics in my intermediate listening speaking class, and we watched a lecture about the rights approach versus the utilitarian approach to ethics, and so we were having group discussions about various ethical dilemmas and scenarios, and we were kind of analyzing them from the rights approach or from the utilitarian approach and deciding, what would be the best course of action based on these things. So in order to do that, I had my students either come up with their own or find their own ethical dilemmas and bring them to class so that I didn't have to spend all my time creating a bunch of ethical dilemmas for them. And so the way I did that is I gave them a homework assignment. I created this box note, and you'll notice when I clicked on it, it just opened up, and right here, blah. It's very easy to just start typing in there. And anybody who opens it up can do that in the same way. So that's where I got into trouble when this was my homework document, because then the student just highlighted it and deleted it, and it was gone. So that's something to kind of keep aware of. But you can see that they go in, they add their name, and then they type in their own dilemma. And it was very interesting when I put it up to the students, because they came up with some, I thought I was really pushing the envelope and talking. They were free speech in America, and I was free speech in America. Should people be able to say hateful things about other races or other religions? I was like, wow, this is going to be contentious. And they were kind of no, shouldn't be allowed to. And I was like, oh, okay. But they came up with some that even I was like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. What did they say? If your mother and wife drop in a river at the same time, who will you save first? I was like, oh my God. If your wife and mom don't like each other, what are you going to do, or which side are you going to stand for? So my students, if a woman has a new baby at the same time, needs to take a job, should she take a job or should she care for her child? And there was a husband and wife in that class. It was a very interesting discussion that day, and they came up with all these things. And so it was very easy, very quick for them to get in and to create this collaborative document together that then we could use in a class activity. One thing about box notes to be aware of is they're only available online. So actually, even if you use BoxSync and you're saving things to a folder on your computer, the box notes will never save to your computer. They'll only be available on the web browser. But the other wonderful thing about Box is that it works really well with Microsoft Office. Word, PowerPoint, and Excel all work very nicely with Box. You can create new Word documents online, again with the New button. So you can see there's options for Word document, PowerPoint document, or Excel spreadsheet. So you can just literally, in your web browser, create them. And then you can edit them either online or on your computer. So sometimes what I do, or what I have done, is I will, my basic thing is I like to create a single document, share it with a group of students, and have them all work on it together. And they can actually, they can be working on it at the same time, simultaneously, which is what you guys will be doing in a little bit. So 3 different people have the same document open, and at the same time, in real time, they're actually working on it together. So I want to show you another activity we did in this class. Was we were talking about alien intelligence, extraterrestrial intelligence. And so if you guys are aware of the Voyager spacecraft, I think it was Voyager, it's the only man-made object that has left the solar system. When Carl Sagan was around, he put a little golden record on that space probe, and it had all this information to basically tell aliens what Earth is all about. And so I had my students actually get together and create their own golden records. I put them in international groups, and I was like, you guys have to agree on 5 things, like a person, some piece of technology, and each one of them has to represent all of humanity. So 20 minutes, do it. I think Sagan had more time than that. So basically they had to do that, and then they had to present it. And so for the presentation, I wanted to make this, my very lofty and ambitious goal, which didn't work out, was to have them do that, create a PowerPoint, and present it in 1 hour of class. I had Jerry observing me, so I was super ambitious that day. But they didn't finish it, but we had to do a second class. But basically, so in order to streamline this for them, I created a template PowerPoint, and I included the slides they needed, and so all they had to do was find pictures, type in text, and they could be done. And so this group did it. They shared their golden record. They had their introduction. These guys didn't include any pictures or anything cool like that. But you know, they made some interesting choices, like cave painting was the art that they thought should represent the world. And so they were able to work together on this and then present it. And one of the nice things, I mentioned the idea of like version history, how when one of my students deleted all my homework, I was able to just go in and restore it immediately. So one of the things that you get to see, oops, that's not the right button. When you click on any file, you're basically in this little preview window. And you can use this to make comments within Box, and so that's a real quick, easy way just to go in and make just general kind of overarching comments on students' work. But the other thing that you can see is down here it says versions 1 through 6 that 2 collaborators uploaded. So if you click on that, it gives you a record in time of exactly who edited this document, what time they edited it. And then at any point, if you want to go back and you want to either maybe download an old version, or if you want to take an old version and make that current, you can do that. And so when the student would delete the homework, I could see, first of all, who did it and when they did it. And so I could be like, why didn't you talk to me at 11:30 last night? Maybe not then, actually, I would not tell them to do that. But like, okay, let's say it was 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock last evening, you deleted all the homework. Why didn't you call me? Or why didn't you send me an email immediately and tell me you had deleted the homework? And they look at you like, this guy would always look at me like, how does he know that? But that's how you know. And then, you know, if you got a group project, depending, you know, I can go in here and I can see, okay, Amr 6:50, Amr 6:48, Amr 6:45, Amr 6:42. Amr wakes up really early to do his homework. Darwin, on the other hand, he was up at 11:51 p.m. working on it. So I can see when Darwin went in, and I can see when Amr went in. You know, and if you're doing a group work project, you might want to get like information like that. Who's going in when? You know, how much are they actually doing it? So all those things are really nice in terms of collaboration. The last thing I want to show you real quick has to do with student submission. If you want to use this to actually have them turn in assignments. So, you know, I've shown you this. I have collaborative documents, maybe for a homework assignment. You go in, you type your idea onto the table, and we've all got, everyone's ideas are shared. But occasionally, you don't want everyone to be able to see what someone submits, you know, for a variety of reasons. And in this class, high intermediate listening speaking, we do audio journals, where the students actually have to record a response to a prompt. And then I listen to them, and they're graded on like their pronunciation, on their ability to kind of summarize and present ideas. So for these things, in this class this semester, I decided not to make those public. I decided for other semesters, for other reasons, I had students listen to each other's audio journals. But this time I decided it's going to be private. It's just going to be an assignment they turn in to me. So going all the way back, if you remember, I told you I don't store everything for the class in my shared folder. I have another folder that is basically all of my materials that I don't want the students to have access to. So within this non-shared folder, I have my listening speaking journals folder. And then you can see that for each student, I've created a folder. So Ming Hong. If you look at his folder, it's only shared between Ming Hong and I. We're the only two people that have access to this folder. So in this folder, Ming Hong was recording his audio journals and he was submitting them to me. And again, it's really nice because it says uploaded on November 30th by Ming Hong. So it's one of those things where, like, you know, if you can know exactly when they turned it in. You know, if you're someone who likes to set very strict deadlines, students can be turning things in a way that's like zero work and zero trouble for you, but you can go in anytime you want and you can know exactly when they submitted it. And you can even they can submit it and you can, anyway, you get the deal. And so in this folder, Ming Hong was submitting his audio journals so that only I could hear them, but then also I was filling out rubrics and I was giving them back to him with his scores, with all of my comments on them. And so in this way, only he and I have access to this folder. He has to use his Ohio ID and password to access this. So you know, in those ways, it's secure for passing back like grades and things like that to students. I'm not quite sure if this is like FERPA approved, so I don't know if I should actually be saying this to you guys right now and live onto the internet. But as far as I know, it's secure and only me and the student can access these things. So that is my spiel. That is kind of my lecture about what I do with Box. Do you guys have any questions for me? Anything else you guys wanted to know about how to use this? Yeah.
Can you show quickly how to edit a Microsoft Word document in there?
Yes,
Please,
yes.
please.
I'm glad you asked me that. That's a very good question.
I use Evernote for my own notes because it syncs, and then so using this would be awesome because everything else is in there.
Okay, I'll show you, and this same process works for PowerPoint and Excel sheets. But I will edit my homework document. So you'll notice if I click on it once, I'm in this preview window. So if I go in here, I can highlight things and copy and paste, but I can't actually, I can click on links, but I can't type. I can't do any editing. If I want to, well, let me ask you guys. I'll do my annoying thing. If I want to open this with Word, what should I click?
Open with Word.
Open with Word up here at the top. They make it nice and big with a rectangular button. And you'll notice you have two options. Microsoft Word, open this file on your desktop, or Microsoft Word Online, open this file in your browser. So I'll just go ahead and do it online. But if you choose to open it on your browser, if you've ever used Microsoft Word before, it's exactly the same. The only difference is the minute you hit save, it automatically syncs to Box Online, which is really cool. So if I'm in here, I can add homework for tonight. What is it? Wednesday, January 25th. What could we, my students from last semester will be very surprised. What kind of homework should we give them tonight that will just absolutely blow their minds? It's a listening speaking class, maybe they should read something. What would be really hard for an intermediate level English student to read? Read?
Poem?
Okay, read poems, maybe Shakespeare. Shakespeare's hard.
Yeah.
Read all of Shakespeare's sonnets. I was not really an English major. And synthesize them into a single poem that captures the bard's unique voice. All right, they should probably be able to do that tonight for homework. So you can see, so I go in there, I've edited it. Just like a Google Doc, it saves automatically. I don't even have to hit save if I'm online. And when I close it and come back here, it should remind me that there's a new version that I can refresh. And now when the students go in, they'll see what their horrible homework is for tonight. Oh, Shakespeare. They beat me. So this is actually when I said that the student, so when they do this, when they click, what happens is if you share your homework this way, or if you share something like my weekly plan this way, most students are just going to click on it, they're going to read what they need to read, maybe click on the links they need to click on, but they're not going to come up here to open it with Word. That's not just going to accidentally happen. With the box notes, they can accidentally highlight and delete something, or they can do whatever they can do to the document. So that's why they have access, but there's this extra step where fewer accidents end up happening. Any other questions?
We have a question
Yeah.
online from Kevin Jamber.
Kevin.
And he was asking about your ability to, or one's ability to record directly onto Box through an Android or iOS device.
Okay.
Can you comment on that?
Yes, I can. I can comment on, we discussed that yesterday, Kevin, but good question. And this is, for those of you who don't like to be tech support for your students, I am included in this group. But when I showed you guys how I was having the listening speaking journals, they had to upload things. So my colleague, Mr. Jambor, actually informed me yesterday, for Android and for iPhone, there is a Box app, and you can record, you can take a photo or you can record a video in the Box app, and it automatically uploads to a Box folder. and it even gives you the option of watching the video and doing a retake of doing it again, which we know for our language students is like really important. That's what you actually want them to get to do with the assignment. So that's a really quick and easy way, and I'm glad that he told me that, because one thing I've had issues with the students is that, like, you know, many of them are having to go through some roundabout kind of onerous way to go from recording their audio to uploading it to my Box folder. My general policy on this is that's up to you to figure out as a student. And there, you know, if you want to come sit with me, like, I will try to help you, like, during my office hours. But I am definitely not. I don't prescribe a way that they get their documents onto this thing. I think it's easy enough that most people with a basic grasp of technology can find a way to get their stuff on there. And I found that when I tell the students, like, come to my office hours, talk to me on your free time, I'll help you figure it out, they don't come, but the next day everything is uploaded, so they've figured it out one way or another. But actually knowing this now, though, that on their phones they can just record a video and directly have it on there, will make it actually probably much easier for the students to do things like upload those, to turn in those assignments.
It's much easier because sometimes students have problems with the format, so they say, oh, I recorded it on my phone, but now I can't open it on my computer, and I can't find any computer that opens this file.
Yeah.
But like that, it works, and it's pretty good box. I noticed it actually supports many kinds of files, and you can listen to them directly on there. You don't need to download them.
Yeah. I guess I probably shouldn't show you that, but my students, when they do their audio journals, they have, it comes in all different file formats, and you don't have to download anything, you just listen to it directly on Box. So that's really nice. Any other questions about?
I just have one question about the box sync. Do people need to worry about that at all? How do you use box sync?
So you, once you've downloaded, and I can't remember even how I did it, but if you're in here, and you go into the menu that you would change any settings or log out, you'll see Get Box Sync is on there, and you download it as an application for your computer, and then basically once you sign in to Box Sync using your Ohio ID, it creates a folder for you called your Box Sync folder, and then everything that you have online in your Box account gets downloaded into this folder, and anything you're working on your computer and you save inside this Box folder will automatically get uploaded and sync back onto the internet. So I mean, once I put it onto my computer, I barely even think about it anymore. It's really easy. The one thing that you want to keep in mind, though, using Box Sync, and where I've seen my students and myself get into some trouble, is there's a lag time. If you're using Box Sync, it's got to scan your whole computer. So if you work on something on your computer and you save it into a folder here, there's going to be a delay before it's actually online and available to all of your students. So if you want to have something immediately available, then you should have your web browser open, and you can just like drag and drop a file into any folder on here. And then it will upload immediately, and it'll be available to your students immediately. So that's the only thing to be aware of with Box Sync.
Does it make the computer slower, much slower, to have it on the desktop there?
I have not noticed too much of a difference with Box Sync. One of the things Aaron Schwartz actually told me, Abe's co-director for the LRC, so he knows what he's really talking about, is he discovered that when it syncs, one of the way it actually runs much quicker and smoother is, so for example, it only uploads and downloads files that have been recently edited since the last time, and it also has a way of recognizing what parts of the file have actually been edited. So that homework document I have that keeps like growing and growing and growing throughout the semester, when it uploads from my computer back onto Box, it does not re-upload the entire file and all the information on it. It's able to recognize just that chunk of that new day, just that text, and upload that. And so because it does that, it's fairly smooth, and I have not noticed really any discernible. I have other things that run in the background, like Google Photos is always like going through and uploading my photo and video files. That will like grind my computer to a halt if I don't pause it. But Box, I've never really noticed an issue with. Any other questions?
Quick question online.
Yes.
And I think you've already talked about this, but just for their sake, Does the MS Word online feature allow multiple people to be editing the same document at the same time?
Yes, it does. And in fact, and that's something I do more with a writing class. When I was teaching for the English department. I was teaching Writing and Rhetoric 1, the freshman composition course. I actually used this, and I had my students kind of summarizing important points from the chapter, and I was having them create a collaborative document, and that's what we were doing in class. And it was awesome, because basically we were creating something as a class, and after we left class at the end of the day, they all had it automatically available to them. But then, of course, I have yet to encounter this with international students, who I find tend to be a little bit more cooperative and respectful in various ways. But they actually, my American students were, some of them were in very large block letters, typing things like, "You suck, Kyle," or "I hate this class." I think it was done in jest. I don't think that they were actually trying to insult me. My advice for that, number one, and the thing is, your cursor has your name on it, like in Google Drive. So for the most part, that would foil any attempt, because they would realize very quickly that, oh, he's going to know it's me. One of my students is some kind of hacker and had found a way to get in there anonymously. I thought I had everything locked down so that everybody had to be identified, but they're usually a couple of steps ahead of me on that. So I don't have the prescriptive advice for what to do in such a situation. I would advise you not to let it scare you away from doing it, because it happened to me once with one class, and they were a little cheeky anyway. But basically, my personal approach was, I just looked at it and I acknowledged that someone was typing it, and I laughed, and I was like, somebody figured out a way to get in there and type something stupid. And then I just kept going, because everybody saw it was happening, and I figured, like, I'm not going to figure out who it is, I'm not going to waste any time, and I'm basically just going to reinforce this behavior by attempting to find the person and punish them. So that was my personal approach, but of course it would be up to you what to do in that situation. But yes, it is really cool to have everybody, and what I do is I have it on the projector. In a grammar class, sometimes I will have sentences I pulled out that students are actually making corrections to, and I'll have them on the screen in real time. They can see each other going in, editing things, and I can actually stop the class and be like, oh, somebody's working on this sentence, let's talk about it right now. So there's a lot of really cool things like that you can do with like writing classes, grammar classes. But I'm gonna cut you guys off, and you guys too. And I want to make sure that in the last 20 minutes we have time to do the workshop that I want to do. Before we get into the workshop, we're gonna go like full Vygotsky on this thing, and I want you guys to work in partners. And the way I kind of want to divide you guys for partners is I want to do a cut in half split between the box experts and the box novices. And these are general categories. So I want you to imagine a 50% line of 50%. We just did the bookmark method, and so Catherine has taught me a lot about how to do this. I want you to imagine what it means to have 50% proficiency with box. And if you fall on this side, you're on the novice side. And if you fall on this side, then you are on the expert side. So if you're like me and you use box for everything, you're obviously going to be over here. If you are like, what is box? Box is something I worry about when I have to move my house. Then you are over here. And you have to decide for yourself if you fall somewhere on either side of this cutoff line. But go ahead and stand up, and I want to put people on two halves of the classroom. And then I'm going to use that to kind of partner you guys up or put you guys into small groups that can support each other. So go ahead and stand up. Stand up. This is always the hardest part with students. If you feel like you're on the novice side, just kind of step over onto this side of the classroom. No shame. Just please be honest. If you feel like you're on the expert side, come onto this side of the classroom.
I can't find my books to use.
They're in the middle.
And if
It looks like we're going to put you on the novice side because we have way too many experts at this point. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 novices. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh,
Yeah, I'm in the middle too.
5 novices. Okay, so this is what I want you guys to do before you get computers. I want you to look across the classroom if you're a novice, find yourself an expert. If you're an expert, find yourself a novice and become partners and sit down with each other and work next to each other on computers.
Farewell, a message to the online.
Online community as well. Look around and find somebody who's next to you, who's either an expert or novice. No, you guys can work on 2 separate computers. Yeah, you guys can work on 2 separate computers.
Okay, we can sit here with our own
You
computer.
have an uneven number.
Did you find yourself an expert?
Well, we have an uneven number.
Maybe make a group of 3. So just go ahead. Yeah, just join any group since.
All right, so we're done with these guys, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're not
Okay.
gonna have much to do. Well,
Thank you
unless
for joining
unless
us.
they're registered, unless they're added to the box folder.
I didn't. Oh yeah, I have no way of getting that yet.
Okay,
Maybe next time.
It's fine with me. Gotta come in person.